Welcome everyone, and it's a pleasure to speak to everyone from all parts of the world. I do believe, even if you've gotten up early or it's late, the information we will be giving you today will be well worth the effort. So to start things off a little bit, I just wanted to say that Jeunesse has made a commitment, which is very different than many other multi-level marketing companies, to base the products that they are offering in true science and research. And the reason that I am here and part of the Jeunesse team is for exactly that reason. The products you're about to hear about and the science behind them have been tested and researched for over a decade and have been previously used in physician offices and at the physician level. So what you're actually going to see and be able to in the near future utilize yourself, as well as the people who you are involved with, are truly, I would say, medical grade products that for the first time are being offered to the public. So with that,
can we get you to speak just a little bit louder, because of this being so global that you're going to have to turn your volume all the way up, if you could do that.
Okay, and okay, our volume switch, is that better now? Good. Okay, so in general, my background is one in which I was involved in actually starting the anti-aging movement of somewhere around 18, 19 years ago. At that time, we coined the phrase anti-aging, and it was a phrase that was more or less considered really not scientific. And as you know, over the last decade and a half, or almost 2 decades, that phrase has become synonymous with many different approaches to improving our health. I was one of the founding members of the American Academy of Anti-Aging Medicine with Dr. Klatz and Dr. Goldman, and I was also the initial president of the American Board of Anti-Aging Medicine, and my charge was to create the examination process for physicians who wanted to become anti-aging physicians. That I was quite busy with for a number of years, and over the years I have also turned my attention to trying to bring this information to the public. And if anyone has an opportunity to go on Amazon.com, you'll see at least 4, perhaps 5 of my books available there, which forms the basis of much of the information you'll get today. I've been involved with designing products, testing new nutraceutical compounds, and focusing on mainly natural sources of products that can really impact the aging process from the genetic level upward. And on this slide you'll also see I've had the opportunity to consult for NASA on the shuttle's arms, a special electronic arm, which I was involved in with one of my patents. And as well, more importantly, my research continues today in the area of stem cells for their use for both age-related disease processes as well as cosmetic applications. So we'll go on to the next slide here. The books that I've been involved with, and actually the primary author, would have to do with information around not just products, but also one of the more important things is the lifestyle that one utilizes with extremely good quality products. So although you can take what we will, I believe, show you is the best product on the market, you certainly need to look at your lifestyle as well, and together by doing these 2 things together, you'll have the greatest impact in improving the quality of your life as well as the people around you. My most recent book, The Gene Makeover, I think would be an excellent book to do an overview on the science that we're looking at today, which is really focusing on the impact of DNA and the damage that we all suffer to our DNA as we age. Breaking the Aging Codes is also a great book, as it's an overview of the science of anti-aging in general. And if you're looking for diet recommendations, food, exercise programs, the Anti-Aging Solution is an excellent book as a resource reference book. And these books you should easily be able to get through Jeunesse by just contacting.
It will move you. Yeah, I think quite a few people in Orlando were able to purchase the Breaking the Aging Code and in the Gene Makeover as well from September.
In general, yeah. Yeah, and I think that they're great reference books because they contain much of the information um, that has been utilized to design the new products that we'll be discussing today. So in the past, it has been kind of a fantasy story that people would say, well, you could really impact the aging process or slow it down. Aging was considered inevitable, and there's no question we all age. And the question here is, how can we age more efficiently, or how can we age, if you will, more slowly, so that both the quality and quality of our lives remain more optimal as we get older rather than decreasing in quality. Anti-aging therapies have focused on lifestyle interventions, hormonal replacement, vitamin supplements, and that's where we were about 18 years ago. All of these things did impact the quality of our lives, but they really didn't touch on the origin of the aging process. So we are now at the level of the origin of the aging process from a science information point of view, and that has to do with stem cells, DNA, and telomeres. And we will be reviewing all of that during this seminar. Okay, so for a moment, let's just take a look at what's happened over the last couple of thousand years. The first evidence of anything being done for a therapeutic approach to aging was the ancient Egyptians. In 1500 BC, the treatment for the pharaohs and the therapeutai, the high priests for the Egyptians, were a special supplement that they took, and which was limited to just the elite few. This supplement was a white compound that they actually baked into the bread which they ate, and that supplement has actually been isolated, and actually specimens were found in the early 1900s by Sir William Flinders Petrie, who was a world-renowned archaeologist. And what he was able to do is discover a temple where these first anti-aging supplements were actually utilized. What we know now, the impact of this compound was directly on the DNA, and it actually was for the first time ever a compound that we now know it helped improve the to repair the damage that we suffer with the aging process at the level of the DNA. As time went on, we went ahead in along throughout the history and the world in general, different civilizations had their approaches to try to live longer and healthier lives. As far back as 5000 BC, the Sumerians and then the Egyptians had this whole concept of this special anti-aging supplement, which today we just discussed. About 100 BC, the Greeks felt that one of the most important things to stay young was to drink red wine. Well, obviously we now know that red wine contains one of the more potent anti-aging compounds, resveratrol, as well as other ingredients in the wineskin itself. So there was some type of innate knowledge that perhaps we as humans were able to touch on, and we then continued to look at other things that might have improved the quality of our lives as well. And in around 50 AD, there were a number of people at this time were starting to look at, well, what would happen if we actually ate less? And a specific Roman citizen, Luigi Caravallo, who at that time was in his early 30s and weighed about 300 pounds, decided to start and actually documented the use of the Mediterranean diet, which was low calories, high olive oil, and other things that were naturally high in omega-3s and omega-6s. Well, Luigi lived to 101, and this was in 50 AD. So he was really the first example of the first anti-aging enthusiast, but he also was the first one to record what he did, and this information, again, was passed on to generation to generation. Dr. Brown Seacard, who was actually a surgeon at this time, started in the 1900s. the vogue of hormone therapy, if you will, began with the actual transplantation of goat testicles. And Dr. Brown Seacard, who was actually a surgeon at this time, started to do for the first time this whole concept of replacing lowering levels of testosterone with goat testicles. And actually this was the first time we actually started to think of cell transplantations. And believe it or not, many people felt that this whole treatment process actually made a dramatic improvement in their lives. Well, we know today that the placebo effect can have a dramatic improvement in people's perception of how they're feeling and how they're aging, but this opened the door to a whole new concept of hormonal replacement and even cell therapy in the future. In the 1930s, the concept of vital amines, that is vital compounds that the body needs to stay healthy and well, became the vogue, and for the first time we noticed that there were specific things that we needed as individuals, as humans, to stay healthy. And these were things like vitamin C, vitamin A, vitamin E, and we started for the first time to gather the scientific evidence to support the concept that the body needed more than just food, but specific foods that supplied these specific compounds to stay healthy and well. Cornell University in the 1940s were the first ones really to document that if we cut calories down, that is the amount of food we ate, that animals would not only live longer, but the quality of the animal's health improved. And so in the 1940s, the first studies for calorie restriction and the use of high protein diets actually documented scientifically the concept that Luigi Carvalho magical bullet, if you will, and the concept discussed and actually published at the turn of the at 50 AD. And the concept of growth hormone therapy became quite popular. In the 1980s, we began to look at the magical magical bullet, if you will, and the concept that perhaps there's one thing that would really make a difference in the aging process. And the concept of growth hormone therapy became quite popular. And it did document, without a question, certain improvements in people who are aging. But unfortunately, it did not turn out to be the magic bullet. And as we now know, there is no one single compound that can really make a difference in the complete process of aging as we know it. In 1990s, hormonal replacement became the rage, and today still is a very popular and useful adjunct to aging optimally. But it's not really a therapy that focuses on the origin of the aging process itself. And with the Human Genome Project, in 2000, we actually, as a species, did an amazing thing. We were able, for the first time in human history, to actually create the genetic map of what it takes to design or for a human being to develop. And with the Human Genome Project, we were for the first time now tied to and beginning to see the origin of the aging process, which really begins at the level of our genes and particularly our DNA. In 2005, genetic testing evolved quickly from the Human Genome Project, and for the first time we were able to actually see that each one of us is a unique genetic individual, and we are actually require different levels of different supplements in order to stay healthy. So genetic testing has given us another little piece of information to help personalize age management regimens. So today we are at a, if you will, turning point in the aging process. We now know that there is no one single thing that can actually make a dramatic improvement in the aging process. And in reality, the new research and the new sciences of telomeres, stem cells, the changing gene patterns that we all experience as we age, along with calorie restriction together, really create the model that we've been looking at the level of our basic age-related research. So what we've looked at is taken the information that we have been actually lucky to have recorded from over a number of thousand years ago to the present and put it all together with a focused approach on impacting the aging process at the level of our genes. So to look at the aging process in summary, well, aging is a natural process that is determined by one's genetic inheritance, and how healthy a person ages is affected by the body's ability to repair and reproduce our DNA and keep it in its most healthy, if you will, and optimal shape. We live in a 21st century environment that we as humans were not genetically designed to live in. And if you really think about it, our environment in the 21st century is something that has really just changed over the last few hundred years. So we're exposed to environmental toxins, we're exposed to electromagnetic radiation. Many of these things make it very difficult for us to function optimally, since we've evolved in an environment that was much more pristine. We're also affected by how efficiently the body handles the critical biological processes. That is, the ones that control blood sugar, the ones that control turning genes on or off, or what we refer to as methylation, the process of inflammation, and the process of oxidative stress, which is produced by not only the free radicals that we produce normally, but also by the exposure to our 21st century environment. So age management today, in 2011, is the science of identifying and overcoming some of these genetic weaknesses, compensating for this challenging 21st century environment, and learning how can we improve these key biological processes from both the inside out and from the outside in. So at Journess, our goal, via the most recent science of DNA, stem cells, and the information we've gleaned from calorie restriction, is to come up with a approach to improve the quality of life from the DNA upward. And the whole focus here is, we all experience different levels of health, and some people might feel more healthy or more energetic than others. So our whole goal here is to take your normal state of health and energy and move everything to the right on this slide to improve not just how you feel, but to help you feel and function and age as optimally as possible. So let's just take a look again about how important this whole concept of DNA really is. On the left is a 15-year-old child, a boy. And when I show this slide, it's heartbreaking. This is a child who was born with just one gene that directly impacts the body's ability to repair the damage to his DNA. This disease process is called Hutchinson-Gilford's disease, or progeria. And there are a number of variants of this disease process today, but when we look at the impact of what one gene that has to do with allowing us to repair the damage to our DNA, you can see the dramatic impact. Now on the right is a 100-year-old gentleman who happened to be born with genes that were good for DNA repair. So I think a picture's worth 1,000 words, and you can start to see that the importance of keeping our DNA and our genes in optimal health. I'm not sure if we're able to see the videos on this, but what we're really looking at here is if we were to take a trip inside our cell, we would be looking at a strand of DNA. This little break that you see in the center of this picture is a single-strand DNA break. Now, throughout the day, 24 hours a day, each one of our cells suffer 500,000 hits to our DNA, 500,000 breaks or damage to our DNA. Now imagine 100 trillion cells in your body, each one of those cells being damaged, their DNA being damaged 500,000 times a day, and our body's ability to repair that damage so efficiently that virtually none of it remains. Well, that's the miracle of what genetics and evolution has done for human beings in general. Now the secret is as we age, once we hit our mid to late 30s, our ability to repair that damage starts to fall below our the amount of damage we actually are suffering. So we end up slowly accumulating that damage. When we're young and when we're in our 20s and teens, we can actually repair the damage much quicker than it occurs. So one of the focuses of our research has been, how do we enhance that natural ability to repair the damage to that DNA? If we take a look at the aging process, what we'll also see is that as children and as young people, we're able to repair the damage to that DNA very efficiently, so we really don't experience the negative effects of aging. To go from a child to adulthood is what we call positive aging. That is, our bodies are developing, our genes are directing us to develop into full adults, and up until this middle picture, which is about the late 20s, early 30s, everything functions absolutely beautiful. It's from the middle picture, the adult picture, to old age, where we start to lose the capacity to repair the damage to our DNA. Our genes start to, our healthy genes start to turn off. Our aging genes, or genes that accelerate the aging process, raise our cholesterol, cause us more inflammation, joint pain, those start to get activated. And it is that negative aging from adulthood to older age that we're really focusing on our research, and with the supplements and the nutraceuticals we'll be talking about today. So what happens when DNA is broken? Well, we've shown in that picture there's actually a break in the double strand of DNA. When that breaks, the body has a built-in genetic repair mechanism that actually will place a new section of DNA and seal it, and this occurs within, believe it or not, seconds. Okay, so if we can keep the DNA damage and repair it optimal, what we notice is that to the right of this, the repair of DNA damage and optimal functioning of our genes, if it's complete to the left, we'll notice we have very little occurrence of disease processes through a good portion of our life. The most important thing is our health, and the quality of our life is dramatically better. If this damage builds up and accumulates, we end up with not only poor disease, but we end up with an accelerated aging process, poor quality of health, and ultimately, if that disease process continues and our damage continues to the point where our body cannot correct the damage to our DNA, we end up with diseases of aging like cancer. So the secret to staying healthy is just that, trying to keep our body's ability to repair its damage at an optimal place. Now, if we take a look at what we've referred to as the aging equation, what you'll see is that as we age, we end up with free radical damage, which is caused by the free radicals that are produced during the normal cellular processes of digesting our carbohydrates, proteins, and fats. The body then releases, if you will, this exhaust, which is what we call free radicals. These high energy particles damage our DNA. They also create a problem with elevated blood sugar levels, and together with elevated blood sugar levels, which then stick to our proteins in our body, we end up with a process called glycation. When that happens, these glycated compounds actually produce even more free radicals. As the free radicals continue to be made, we notice that within our cell starts to produce compounds that create inflammation. And the more inflammation we create, the more problems we have with this process that regulates genes called methylation. And this ends up becoming a vicious cycle. The more free radicals, the more glycation we have, the more inflammation we have, and the more dysregulation of the genes we have. Ultimately, if we can control and improve our body's ability to repair the damage to its DNA and actually limit the damage by the right combinations of antioxidants, all of these processes occur less frequently and with less magnitude, and we end up experiencing an improved quality of health. Now, each one of these processes, as you know, is linked to something that happens to our body. So if we end up with high blood sugar levels, we end up with gaining body fat. Our body fat, muscle mass composition changes. We not only look older, but we end up with many other diseases of aging, particularly diabetes. As the inflammatory process continues, we end up feeling that in our bones and our joints. We also end up, believe it or not, with inflammation being a major contributor to Alzheimer's disease and other diseases of mental loss or mental function as we age. Oxidation is a process that we end up, as we talked about, it creates free radical damage to both our DNA and our cell membranes, and is also responsible for less effective hormonal effects as we get older. Methylation, as we talked about, is this process where genes are regulated by the addition of a methyl group to the DNA itself. The most common problem we see with poor methylation is elevated homocysteine levels and heart disease and cardiovascular disease. And lastly, and most importantly, we'll talk about DNA repair function. This is, the more damage we have to DNA, all of these other processes tend to be accelerated within the cell level and throughout the body. Okay. So let's do a quick little review here. The importance of DNA repair in health and aging. DNA is continuously being exposed to both the internal and external factors that result in damage. So we have what we refer to as intrinsic aging, which is what happens from just a normal body processes, and we have what we call extrinsic aging, which is aging to our skin and the inside of our bodies by being exposed to not only UVA, UVB radiation from the sun, but all the xenotoxic things that the 21st century has given us in the forms of pollution, both from exhaust from cars and buses, but electromagnetic pollution, and for instance also artificial chemicals and compounds that we ingest in our food. At the age of 30, the body's DNA self-repair mechanism becomes less efficient in both our bodies or somatic cells as well as our stem cells. Now, if that DNA damage is left unrepaired, our cells replicate themselves or make copies of themselves, and we create a damaged version of those cells, or if you will, a copy that doesn't work quite as efficiently. This results in, for instance, as these cells build up, in the negative effects that we become used to seeing as the aging process. We lose our energy, our memory gets poor, our vision starts to decrease, and in general what we see is what we refer to as the normal process of aging. So it sounds pretty depressing at the moment, but in reality this information has been pivotal in allowing us to focus what we've done our research on. A number of years ago in 2002, and time goes by quickly, I didn't realize it was that long ago, but we then did a study to look at what were the effects of the right combinations of antioxidants, the right combinations of anti-inflammatories, if we were to add that to a special compound we happened to find in the Amazon jungle. And that compound was found by Dr. Ronald Puro in one of his trips to Brazil, and there what he found was an herb that was being used to treat tumors and cancers. And after about 15 years of research at the University of Lund, Sweden, as well as here in the United States, we found out that there were natural occurring compounds that could actually dramatically improve our body's ability to repair damage to DNA. So with this study, what we did is we tried to look at combining the effects of this new DNA repair compound with a broad spectrum antioxidant, anti-inflammatory product that we created. And for the first time, what we were able to show in humans, that we could dramatically decrease the amount of DNA damage and even upregulate or improve our body's ability to repair DNA damage. We also were able to show for the first time that we could decrease inflammation, and this compound was extremely safe to use over a long period of time. So this was the first time anyone had ever shown that a non-prescription compound could directly impact aging at the DNA and genetic level. So why is this so important? Well, the reason this is so important is because we really have two major groups of cells in our body. The somatic cells, which we all look at day to day, make up our body, our skin, our muscles, our bones, our organs, number somewhere about 100 trillion cells. Now, as those cells wear out, after they've made certain numbers of copies of themselves, we have a second group of cells, if you will, that come in to then repair and actually restore new versions of those body cells. These are called our adult stem cells, and they number in the hundreds of millions, significantly less. Now, what's the common factor here is that both sets of these cells have the DNA, and the DNA is essential for them to make copies of themselves in order to keep our body healthy and functioning as we age. If our DNA in our stem cells and our somatic cells is damaged, what we have are our cells making poor copies of themselves. And what happens is with each generation of new cells, we lose the body's ability to make copies of that genetic information optimally, and those cells start to function less and less optimal. So what we're looking at doing is maintaining and improving the quality of both our stem cells and our somatic cells with our approach to anti-aging here with Jeunesse. One of the more recent literature, pieces of literature has documented that DNA damage is something that's not only important in our body cells, but particularly our adult stem cells. And we're looking more and more, we began looking at how can we improve not just the body we live in, but those cells that are so important to maintain its health and repair the damage that it suffers. So stem cells and DNA and telomeres. So many of you are hearing so much about telomeres and why this is important to help keep them healthy. Well, there's a whole new revolution in anti-aging and age management, and what we've done with Jeunesse's most recent product is combine the most recent research that actually impacts all of these areas. As I said, these two groups of cells are really what keeps you healthy and not only aging optimally but looking youthful. So what we want to do is be able to impact not only the DNA, we want to be able to impact our stem cells, and as importantly, keep the telomeres, which are the aging clocks in both of these cells, working more optimally. As we age in both of these groups of cells, the DNA that is damaged creates damage in the genetic information in both of these sets of cells. One of the most important areas to keep in mind are the telomeres, and as we make a copy of each one of our cells, or the cell makes a copy of itself, that telomere shortens just a teeny bit. And after certain numbers of divisions or cell copies, the telomere will actually send a signal to the cell to stop dividing. Now, one of the most important and amazing pieces of information over the last 2 years we found there are things we can take right now that actually will help slow the shortening process of these telomeres down so they don't shrink as quickly as they would have if we did not intervene. Now let's talk very briefly about some of the things that the research has documented can help maintain the length of our telomeres or protect them. Okay, one of the things we know without a question is that if we are exposed to high levels of free radicals, this will dramatically shorten our telomeres at a quicker rate than they would normally do. So that documents, without a question, the need for the right combinations of antioxidants. The next group of information we received in the last 2 years has to do with the fact that inflammation, particularly TNF-alpha, an inflammatory compound we doctors know about, and NF-kappa B, another compound that we know about, are two of these inflammatory markers that if we can control them or limit them, the telomeres stay longer for a longer period of time and they don't shorten as much. The other piece of research that we've recently discovered was the fact that elevated cortisol is one of the key things that helps shorten telomeres with the biggest impact. Now, why is that important? Well, if we are stressed, psychological stress, without a question, elevates our cortisol, and that has to do with a number of kind of occurrences in our daily lives that can initiate that. One of the more, I think, exciting studies that documented this was by Elizabeth Blackburn's study, one of the world's experts in research in telomeres, where she documented that women who had children who had severe learning disabilities or autism suffered a very, very rapid shortening of their telomeres, which directly impacted their immune function, how they looked. So we started to look at what specific other instances in our daily lives cause elevated cortisol? Well, one of the most common reasons aside from stress is elevated blood sugar levels. And elevated cortisol goes hand in hand with elevated insulin. So calorie restriction, which lowers our blood sugar, which lowers our calorie intake, also is something that helps maintain our telomeres. But again, most of us can't calorie restrict ourselves, so what do? We look at compounds that are natural occurring that can help mimic calorie restriction inside our cells, like the ingredients that are in the new Neutrogena product. For instance, resveratrol, pterostilbene are two of the key components that actually at the genetic level help limit and help maintain telomere lengths as well. So if we are making copies of ourselves, okay, and let's take a look. Let's say if we're 20 years old, when we make a copy of ourselves, due to the fact our DNA is healthy, our genes are working great, we make a pretty excellent copy. And if you look at this slide, what you'll see is we have a little phrase here, I am healthy. Okay, that each one of those letters would be, if you will, an example of what a genetic a piece of gene that's going to create a piece of a new protein to help keep that cell healthy would be responsible for doing. So, for instance, this message is completely clear and easy to read because the genetic information has not been damaged. If we take a look at our cells when we're 60, the accumulation of DNA damage still produces a message that allows the cell to function, but you start to see the message, if you will, is not quite accurate, so that the proteins, the analogy would be the proteins the cell is producing are not quite optimal, and that cell, although it's functioning, it's not functioning as optimally as it should. As we age, the damage to that DNA starts to accumulate to such a degree that we really start to lose the message in general. And the cell now is in a state of what we call cell senescence, and it is sitting there in our bodies creating free radicals, creating inflammation, and really doing nothing to help us. And if that damage continues, that cell could turn into cancer, or the body will then actually remove the cell through a process called apoptosis, or programmed cell death. So again, we're focusing on the importance of keeping things healthy and keeping our cells working optimally from the inside out. Some of the more recent advances in biotechnology that we've been utilizing in the Genes product are very exciting. Technology is the driving factor today in where we're going with product development and with clinical applications. If you take a look at biotechnology growth over the last 9-year span, and this slide looks like it's backwards, but we'll start from the right. In 2003, you see technology as we move to the left pretty much was pretty linear. In 2009, it started to grow dramatically. In 2011, we are doubling the amount of biotechnology we have in information in DNA, genes, and stem cells every 4 months. So the information is becoming logarithmic, and that information, part of our goal is to keep looking at and evaluating the information that pertains to DNA, telomeres, stem cells, genetics, and even artificial intelligence, and keep that in mind as we develop new models for optimal aging. So to give you a summary of the thought process here at Genes, let's take a look at what we're doing. We're approaching the aging process not with a silver bullet, not with a single product like many other companies are doing, saying, here's the answer to aging, this product will solve the aging process. There is no such thing. Nature and the underlying intelligence behind nature is much wiser than creating a system that has just one little key or latch for the aging process. So at the cellular level, the products that have been designed at Genes are working on the areas that we know directly impact the cell. On the left-hand side, you'll see DNA damage as the paramount feature the ingredients of these products will focus on, but the other ingredients also directly impact our body's ability to control blood sugar, inflammation, this methylation process which regulates genes, and free radical control through keeping our oxidative processes more optimal. The products that you're already experiencing, like the products that we have here, Reserve, is a product that is directly impacting not only these processes in general, but particularly with resveratrol, helping to mimic calorie restriction inside the cell. And as we discussed a little bit earlier, that's one of the key models that we know impact the aging process. The new products that we've just come out with, that is Neutrogene AM and PM, are a combination of over 72 ingredients. Now, in each one of these tablets are ingredients that direct their function to these 4 key areas of science we've already discussed: stem cell maintenance, DNA repair in both the nucleus and mitochondria, inhibiting the free radicals that we know create damage to the DNA. There are compounds that help mimic calorie restriction or actually impact some of the genes that are involved in calorie restriction. Compounds that help improve the energy that is produced by our mitochondria. And then another group of products that actually help maintain and protect our telomeres, which are our aging clocks. So the combination of the products, the Reserve product, the AM/PM product, are a true first in directing the latest research towards these key systems that are involved at both the cellular level and throughout the body to help us age more optimally. The products that you've already experienced, that is the topical stem cell serums, are products that are used externally, that in combination with this approach, that is using both the oral supplements and Reserve internally and the topical products externally, what we end up doing we are able to see a dramatic improvement not only in how we feel, but how our skin is aging from the inside out and from the outside in. The most recent product that is now been launched is Advanced Night Repair. Now, Advanced Night Repair is based on 10 years of my research on the effects of DNA repair on the skin itself. And in combination with the AM/PM Neutrogene product, which is repairing our DNA from the inside out, and then the use of Advanced Night Repair from the outside inward, we see a dramatic improvement further dramatic improvement in the skin. Now, as we repair DNA on the surface of our skin with the Advanced Night Repair, the application of the serums, which contain the growth factors, actually work more synergistically. That is because if the cells in our skin have DNA that's functioning more optimally, they're more receptive to the growth factors that have already been shown to be so effective in the the DNA serums that have been utilized already with Jeunesse and all of its distributors. So in summary, what do we presently have that's unique to Jeunesse and that no other company is really focused on? We have a series of products that work at the cellular level outward, impacting each one of the 100 trillion cells that our body is made of. We have a product that impacts internally the DNA in both our nucleus, in our mitochondria, and even up to our skin, that together, when used in a system with both the growth factors topically and the Advanced Night Repair, results in a dramatic improvement in our surface of our skin and how our face, hands, and neck looks. In general, what we're looking to do, we've come up with what is referred to as a cell age management system that works from the genetic level outward. And truly, I believe, one of the most scientific approaches to youthful aging. The next slide will give you just a little more detail on where these products interact at our aging system model. The growth factor products really work on both the telomeres and on the surface of the skin, since they are factors that are actually extracted from stem cells from fat cells. So the actual growth factors from the stem cells themselves are the active ingredient in both of the stem cell serums. The DNA repair compound, or Advanced Night Repair, actually has a component in it that helps induce telomerase in the surface of the skin and helps the skin turn over more quicker and allows the fibroblasts to make more copies of themselves before their aging clock runs down. This in itself is a whole unique approach to skin aging, in that allowing the stem cells not only to make more copies of them, the fibroblasts to make more copies of themselves, but to repair the damage to themselves prior to making those copies. So the skin cells that we're producing are actually a healthier variety. The cellular rejuvenation serums, or the Luminesce product line, are extremely unique. These products have been designed by Dr. Nathan Newman, and over the years have been shown to create a dramatic improvement in the quality of the skin. And this isn't just this isn't just a single parameter. The skin looks healthier. The pores are smaller. The growth factors here help actually produce more hyaluronic acid, more elastin, and more collagen. In essence, it's not a cosmetic product, but it's truly a product that works within the cells, creating a more youthful quality to the skin, and actually a younger skin in general. The Daily Moisture Complex has within it a special sunscreen that has the purpose of limiting the damage that one is exposed to every morning and throughout the day, and as well supplies the key hydrating agents and again the growth factors to help restore and rejuvenate the skin throughout the day, as well as to avoid the damage and limit the damage that we're exposed to each day from both the sun and the external, if you will, toxins that we are all exposed to in the 21st century. These two products together create a system, if you will. I refer to these as your morning protection and your evening repair process. So we want to protect our skin in the morning with the Daily Moisturizing Complex and sunscreen, and we want to repair our skin from the damage that we've suffered from both the environment and the internal aging process in the evening. The origin of these growth factors that Dr. Newman has created come from sterilized and if you will, extremely stringent laboratory conditions where the adipocytes or fat cells are cultured and the growth factors are removed from the cells. These products have no cell products whatsoever, but simply the serum, if you will, or what we refer to in medicine as a supernatant. That serum is then placed in a special delivery system which keeps it preserved and allows it to penetrate into the dermis. So together, what we're looking at here is the ability to actually produce products from our stem cells at the same time while our AM and PM Neutrogena products are helping to maintain the stem cell pools without our body, so we can help create more accurate and more, if you will, more efficient somatic or body cells. The Reserve product, as I mentioned earlier, is a source of not just antioxidants, which help limit free radicals, but a source of other natural occurring ingredients that help support our immune system, help regulate cholesterol, help regulate the digestive system, and help with cardiovascular health and support. The resveratrol component of this, as I mentioned, is a caloric restriction mimetic, or something that, or a product that directly impacts at the genetic level to help improve how our genes work, or if you will, in a more medical term, that it helps improve our genetic expression. So to summarize again, we're looking at launching now this new approach from the inside out of the Neutrogena product, the AM and PM product. These are not, if you will, vitamin mineral supplements. They're a whole new category of nutraceutical called nutrigenetics. These compounds have been researched to impact in a number of ways inside our cells. The first thing they do, some of these compounds are targeted to actually work at the genetic level, to actually change how genes work. That is, turn certain genes on and other genes off. And the doctors here might say, well, that's really not possible, but it is. B6, B12, folic acid, for instance, directly impact the genes that are involved in homocysteine, and the amount of B6, B12, folic acid in the AMPM product can have a dramatic impact on lowering homocysteine levels as well as cholesterol levels. And we've seen that clinically when we've actually tested patients, their laboratory data. The second key component to this combination of new nutrigenetic products is that there are ingredients that help regulate the body's what we call nervous system or sympathetic nervous system. That is, the sympathetic nervous system is composed of a system that helps keep us awake in the morning and helps us become restful in the evening, and that's the parasympathetic nervous system. Taking specific compounds help regulate the alert sleep cycle, which is very, very important as we age. Most people will realize that as they age or they'll experience they're sleeping less and they wake up tired. And a lot of that has to do with this loss of regulatory function with the autonomic nervous system. So keeping our system dominant in the morning and the parasympathetic system dominant in the evening is a key approach to optimal aging, since this is directly linked to optimal hormonal release patterns in our overall biological biorhythms. So in general, when you look at this product and you look at the ingredients and the complexes in this product, what you'll start to see is that there are vitamins and minerals in it, but there are many, many other complexes that are directly related to addressing these four key areas, whether they're at the genetic level or at the, if you will, the metabolic level or the metabolic pathways that are involved by these genes. They also impact, if you will, in certain categories, the actual proteins that your genes produce. So it's a whole new concept in nutraceuticals, focusing on helping your genes to work more optimally. Okay, so DNA damage and repair, you'll find as you look at the product, there are a number of ingredients that directly impact both DNA damage in the nucleus and in the mitochondria. A number of the compounds we have added to this product are based on the latest research in helping to maintain your stem cells in good health, and also to help them be released more optimally when your body's injured or your immune system calls upon them to do their job. Okay, let me go back. Stem cells and a little bit about the aging biotechnology that we're taking a look at. If you take a look at the monkey on the left and look at the monkey on the right of this left-hand side of the slide, what you'll see is that studies originally in animals documented that calorie restriction was one of the only scientifically proven ways that we could extend mammalian life, but not just make animals live longer, but the quality of their lives were better. The ingredients that we're using within the new Neutrogene product are directly related to the most recent research on calorie restriction. And for the first time in humans in the last few years, the NIH actually completed a study, although it was only about a year long, that dramatically documented by cutting calories and adding high density nutrients, the key biomarkers of aging were dramatically improved. Okay. Telomere maintenance, protection, and induction. Okay, well, the science of telomeres is all over the media. We see many other companies coming out with products A, B, C, and D, X, whatever, that claim to stimulate telomerase and help regrow your telomeres. Well, that in itself is really not an optimal approach to cellular aging. There are a number of things that can be done that will dramatically improve, for instance, the ability of our telomeres to make more copies. I mentioned those before, but I'll touch upon them briefly. The following things dramatically slow the shortening process of telomeres and actually help maintain your telomeres in a longer state. And let's go over those briefly. The right combinations of antioxidants will have a dramatic impact on maintaining your telomeres. Limiting your homocysteine levels or keeping them in a lower, more healthy level dramatically impacts and improves telomere length. Keeping your cortisol levels down by trying to reduce your stress and keeping your blood sugar levels under control help maintain more optimal telomere lengths. And one of the most recent pieces of literature we've just seen in the last few months documents that vitamin D3 at 2,000 units a day actually helps telomerase secretion, or actually helps you release more telomerase from your telomeres. So there are many ways to approach this without having to take a separate product just to induce telomerase. And I think the absolute most effective approach is to do all of these things as well as include a telomerase activator, which is the product we've already finished and looked at, which we'll be talking about shortly in some of the newer and the very near future Juness seminars. And that product is ready, is also actually will be added to the product inventory you've seen today, which will further enhance our ability to maintain healthy telomeres. So for the skin, and a cell age management system from the outside in has been put together that involves not only repair of DNA, but the addition and the application of essential growth factors that will help the skin work synergistically with the DNA repair compounds to produce healthier, more youthful looking skin by stimulating the skin to produce more of the key compounds of elastin, collagen, hyaluronic acid. Okay. From the inside out, affecting each one of the 100 trillion cells of your body, Neutrogene, we're excited to introduce Neutrogene, which has been tested and utilized at doctors' offices for a number of years with dramatic improvements in quality of life issues. So in the beginning we talked about aging. Well, we all know that aging is inevitable. That's a truth. The myth is that there's nothing we can do about it. And the actual facts are the science and products are here now from Juness really to make a difference and to improve not only the quality of our lives, but the dramatically impact the length of our health span. That is the amount of healthy quality time we have to share with our family, friends, and experience the wonders of life around us. And with that, I believe we've covered things. I know it's been a quick overview, but I believe we've covered things in general from the most recent science, and I hope everyone's just truly excited about the impact that these products will bring to both you and the people you introduce them to. In summary, you're not distributors at all. You need to look at yourselves as ambassadors of wellness and ambassadors of health, because with the information that we've given you here, as well as these products, you will actually be able to dramatically improve the health and quality of life that everybody you touch and you speak to.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Giampapa. For those of you who have just recently joined us, you've been listening to Dr. Vincent Giampapa. He's a plastic surgeon in the field of anti-aging medicine, as an original contributor to the field of cosmetic surgery. He's one of the founding members of the American Academy of Anti-Aging Medicine. He is also one of our very important doctors on the Juness Medical Advisory Board and chief formulator behind our Neutrogen product line, which was just introduced this September. It's a pleasure, and we've had people, as I mentioned before, from all over the world who've been listening to this webinar, and we will be sending this out in a recording. From all of us here at Global Headquarters, Dr. Giampapa, thank you so much for spending your time with us this afternoon.
My pleasure. Yeah, we'll have a great and healthy day.
Thank you so much. And for everybody that's been on this call, thank all of you for listening in, and we will be having another one of these series on the 21st of November, so you can put that on your calendars for next month. Thank you so much, and good evening, everybody.